I'd love to spend kind of like the closing section here, just doing some rapid fire
Yeah,
around PLG stuff. And
let's
so
do it.
let's start with like comp plans for
Mm.
PLG. Like, is it different for sales teams? Like, do you comp on just like new business expansion, both? Like, what are you typically seeing companies do?
Yeah, it's tricky because you need to align the incentives of the sales rep to only go after leads that would not convert on their own or will drive a bigger ARR. So the best method I've seen, and I don't think anyone's cracked this, is just giving reps a minimum kind of ACV that they need to close in order to be comped on it. So let's say that you are confident that your self-serve deals will close at $5,000 per year. A rep can close that if they think there's expansion potential, but they're only comped when it hits $5,000 in one. And so setting that minimum, I see some companies just take the stance of our reps that are really focused on PLG, they don't get comped at all because we don't want to drive that behavior. I've seen others comp them all. I've seen the spectrum. I think the best is having some sort of minimum threshold.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, at Doc, we've been playing around with it. I don't know if it's right, and it's kind of really early, but it's like we comp on both new business and expansion in the first year, just because it seems like a lot of people with us will start with one or two seats, and then it naturally, evolves from there. And so I've tried to incentivize
That's
Andy,
awesome.
who's our one sales rep, to hopefully like grow with these companies, right,
Yeah,
and
I'll
help
say
them
comp for
expand.
early stage sales is also a different story.
Yeah, yeah. No, like OT, it's all made up, right? Because you don't have a background of like, oh, you're gonna hit quota all the time. Although it's probably made up at bigger companies too at this
It's
point.
all made up.
Yeah, yeah. uh, and then what does like the PLG tech stack typically look
Mm.
like when you're working with companies? I'd love to know like, yeah, what is the different systems that they're usually tying together, and then yeah, how does Pocus sort of fit into that?
Yep. Every company will have a CRM, so Salesforce or HubSpot, a data warehouse. So most common tends to be Snowflake. There's BigQuery, Redshift. That's where you're storing all the product usage data. Um, a lot use Pocus as well to bridge those two different data sets and have one holistic view. And companies will use a engagement tool or an outreach tool like Outreach or Sales Launch. And then finally, some enrichment, whether that's Zoom Info or Clearbit. That's kind of the most common stack that I see.
Gotcha. And if I'm a product led company and I'm setting up like kind of my PQLs for the first time, like how should I think about that? Like how should I think about, okay, what are those triggers or things in the product that I
Mm-hmm.
should call a PQL?
Yeah, I'd say don't over engineer. A lot of companies will spend 6 months running some data science project to try to figure out what the perfect PQL is. And it's not going to be the perfect PQL because you don't have enough data to actually determine what the PQL should be. So I would say make a list of 10 hypotheses and pick a couple of those of what you think PQLs could be. Experiment, set time parameters. We're going to say we're going to experiment with these PQLs for the month, see which converted, see which didn't, and then shift from there. So I'd say do not overcomplicate it. You can do it in your existing CRM. You can do it in a tool like Pocus. You can do it in spreadsheets if your team is really, really small.
And how do you think about the balance of like customer success and customer support and sales and product led? Because it seems to get blurred, right? Like
Yeah,
as you were just saying, like sales is more consultative, maybe more customer successy. Like what does those roles and responsibilities sort of look like?
it is. I do think of the sales assist role as just a pre-sales scaled customer success person. So I've seen the kind of blurred lines in a bunch of different ways. Sometimes an AE is responsible for not just new business, but also expansion. But sometimes that could be account managers and sometimes that could be CS. It just, and sometimes CS doesn't focus on that. They just focus on churn prevention. So I've seen a little bit of everything. I think anything works so long as you have clear pools of engagement, which team is focused on which end goal and which leads they should be reaching out to. So there's not multiple people, both an AE and AM and CSM reaching out to the same customer at once, because that just kind of looks disorganized.
And then when it comes to demand gen and kind of growth and more top of the funnel, is there a specific like yeah growth program that pairs best
Hmm.
with product led growth?
Hmm. That's interesting. What would an example of a growth program be?
I would like SEO or
Oh,
things like that, or outbound sales, right? Like those sorts of programs. Like, is
yeah,
does one of them fit
all of
better?
the above. I think PLG companies tend to tend to not want to do outbound. So I would say it's more of the content and community play. I do think warm outbound is big, of outbounding to your existing users or people who've interacted with your marketing collateral. But what I tend to see is there's a big overlap between PLG and community driven companies, as well as lots of content.
And then what are some of like the best PLG programs that you've seen out there? And like if I want to go study a bunch of other companies, are there a few companies that come to mind who are doing it really right?
Yeah, I think Canva 100% is the most impressive PLG business. I probably shouldn't pick favorites, but I will say that has been the most impressive to me. There's some impressive stats that they have public about the percent split between sales led and product led. And I think everything is from the product, the community, how they've created templates to share, the ability to have it both be prosumer and for businesses. They have done an absolutely incredible job.
And I'd love to end on just like the future of PLG. Is it here to stay? Do you think things will evolve in the future? I don't know. How do you think PLG evolves from here?
I think there's always going to be a product led spectrum. You're going to fit somewhere on that spectrum of the Slack to Salesforce. I do think that every single company in the future will have to have some sort of way to try before you buy or get a taste of the product in some way, whether that's an interactive demo, a pilot, or really self-serve. Just because people don't want to just be guessing on what they're purchasing. So I do think the future of PLG, it's not like, I know a lot of people like to have opinions of PLG is dead or like PLG is the future. There's no one's going to exist if there's no PLG. I see it hybrid. Like you're going to fit on that spectrum and you're going to have to figure out ways to give customers or prospects the taste of the product before they commit to multi-year agreements and partnerships.